Hi chat, just wanted to quickly say that if you have any recs for instrumentals, please say in the comments, and please comment cause I love talking to y'all. Haikyuu was very excited. The keyword was. He had a plan to invite everyone in the Baddie Bottoms group chat to a nice sleepover at his residence. But when almost half of them refused to come due to their own problems, he couldn't help assuming the others weren't going to show up either. And the worst part was if they did, he would have to deal with Miya Atsumu, who was an ass to be around all the time. He huffed, walking downstairs to the living room to collect his thoughts as the doorbell rang, startling him a bit. Redirecting himself to the door, he opened it to see 5 pairs of eyes staring back at him. "Hey, we all decided to come in a group," Suga greeted, bowing slightly. "No need for all of that, Suga. Come in, guys," Haikyuu said, moving out of the way to let everyone in, sighing in relief that they showed up. As they entered his home, he could see the looks of astonishment on most of their faces, barring Kenma, as they walked in. The Haikyuu lifestyle was not cheap, and even though his parents were usually out on trips, barely at home, they made sure Toru was comfortable. "Nice digs, Kawa," Atsumu complimented as he took off his slippers with the others, which shook Haikyuu a bit. Usually, all their interactions were snarky. Oh well, Haikyuu didn't feel bad for starting stuff. "Oh, you see my amazing house and start complimenting me? Didn't know you were a seducer, Tsumu-chan," he teased, not missing how Atsumu's expression soured. "No, I'm just saying that because I'm surprised a pig like you could keep a house this big clean," Atsumu teased back, walking over to Haikyuu with a smug face, as if he had won. "Okay, I'm seeing Haikyuu's face darken, and that's not a good sign, so I'm gonna stop you both right now," Suga butted in, slightly pulling Atsumu back from Haikyuu, who was pouting. "Wow, so motherly. I guess that's why you're the vice," Haikyuu responded, taking a deep breath to regain his composure as he looked at all his guests. He'd seen all of their profile pictures and even met Atsumu in real life, so he knew what to expect, but he was still shocked to see their full bodies. Semi still had his sharp features as seen in his profile, but his hair seemed more grown out, especially in the back. He was already dressed in comfy clothes, ready for sleep. Suga looked exactly like his picture, but his hair was more messed up and wild. Haikyuu wouldn't be surprised if he had just woken up from a nap. Akashi looked more beautiful in person. His hair was exactly like his picture but shone a bit, and he wore a Fukuratani jacket that looked a bit too big on him and black sweats. Behind him was Kenma, who looked down at the game in his hand, clicking away. He also looked like his profile picture, but with a flushed nose and equally flushed cheeks. "Are you just gonna stare at us?" Atsumu questioned, shaking Haikyuu out of his thoughts. "I'm just gonna ignore that. Anyway, follow me," Haikyuu said, leading them to his living room, where multiple futons were laid out. "Okay, this is where we're gonna be sleeping. You all can pick a futon and place your stuff down," he commanded, watching everyone pick a futon. Akashi was next to Kenma, Suga next to Semi, and Atsumu next too. The world must definitely hate him. He sighed as he watched everyone get situated. At least things were going well so far. "I've got a question," Semi spoke up, his voice fitting him well. Haikyuu nodded, signaling him to continue. "Are we just gonna gossip here or what? You didn't really specify what we're gonna do at this sleepover." "Yet, I assumed you just wanted everyone to have a real-life gossip session," Suga added, lying down on his futon. Haikyuu looked at the rest to see Akashi nodding slightly, Kenma not paying them any mind as he continued to tap on his game, and Atsumu tapping on his phone. Truth be told, Haikyuu wanted to get to know these guys better. Even if all he did was talk about getting their crushes back in their group chat, he enjoyed the moments not related to that, even if there weren't that many. "We're not." In fact, he started, taking Atsumu's phone right out of his hand, earning a shout in return. "Give me all your phones." "Why?" Akashi asked, giving him a quizzical look. "Because we can't bond if we're all tapping away. And Kenma, give me your game." He saw Kenma glare at him, hiding behind his game. One by one, they all gave him their phones. Even Kenma, who looked like he was about to cry, handed over his game. "So what are we doing now?" Atsumu asked, bored as if he didn't want to be there, which was fine. He wasn't invited anyway. Suddenly, an idea popped into Oikawa's head. "Let's all have a baking contest," he declared, excitement wavering in his voice. 3 teams of 2. We all try to bake a cake and taste it. The team with the most likes wins. He saw almost all the boys' faces light up at the word win. He smirked, getting ready to walk into the kitchen before another question was asked. "Win what?" Atsumu asked, the smirk evident in his voice. "Your phone's back," Oikawa answered. Period. This was the worst. He didn't know exactly how, but he was teamed up with Atsumu. Akashi was with Kenma, and Suga was with Semi, but that wasn't even the worst part. Atsumu was illiterate when it came to following recipes. They were a good 30 minutes into the baking contest, and the number of times they had to restart was downright embarrassing because Atsumu didn't read the instructions correctly. The point of the contest was to bake, and since Oikawa's house had every type of ingredient imaginable, he didn't care what they baked at all. Suga and Semi were making red velvet cookies with white chocolate chips, which smelled delicious from where he was. Akashi and Kenma were making apple pie, which was already in the oven. Atsumu and Oikawa, however, were making brownies, since that was the only thing they could agree on, and they hadn't even finished putting their ingredients together. As Oikawa was stirring, he couldn't ignore how downright impossible the batter was to stir. He had his suspicions as to why. "Tsumu-chan, how much flour did you add?" Oikawa asked as Atsumu was getting the pan ready. 2 cups, that's what the recipe says, right?" Atsumu answered with a shrug. "There were no 2 cups in the recipe. You probably ruined the brownies on our 4th try." Atsumu walked over, looking at the recipe again with wide eyes before putting it down. "Okay, maybe we could even it out with milk." "Milk? Yeah, it will definitely work," he said confidently, walking over to the fridge. Oikawa was unimpressed, but in the end, he'd rather have chewy brownies than dry ones. Once all the treats were done, it was time to finally taste them. Akashi and Kenma were first. Oikawa wasn't going to lie, he didn't like apple pie that much, and he didn't like how it tasted like warm applesauce. But when he took a bite of whatever Akashi and Kenma made, it was safe to say that he was obsessed with how it tasted. "How did you all make this taste so good?" he asked, practically moaning into his bite as he watched Akashi and Kenma share a knowing glance. "I know apple pie," Kenma answered, leaving Oikawa a bit shaken. "That's the first word I've heard you say all night," Oikawa practically shouted after he swallowed his bite. "What do you mean? He's been talking all night," Suga butted in, covering his face to hide the food in his mouth. "He was talking with me quite a lot," Akashi added. "No, but that's because you two are partners and have been in each other's line of sight this whole time. Heck, even when I took his game, he didn't talk," Oikawa argued, dropping his fork. "Maybe you're just deaf. I mean, you almost had our brownies burned," Atsumu said, shoving another piece of pie in his mouth. "It's not like it made a difference. They still look like they aren't cooked at all," Oikawa clapped back. "I hope y'all are at least a bit edible, or else I fear for my stomach," Suga murmured. "So how many points do we get?" Kenma asked quietly. "You get a point from me." "Me too. It tasted good, I guess. I liked it." "So that's 4 points, we basically win," Akashi stated. "Not unless a team ties with you." Atsumu quit, putting a hand on his side. "You're saying that as if you all can tie with that?" Semi quizzed. He got them there. The cookies that Suga and Semi made were soft, chewy, and sugary, which earned them a point from everyone. Period. Then came Oikawa's and Atsumu's brownies. Oikawa was definitely not excited about their tasting. Their brownies were really sticky, and they hadn't even tried them yet. He couldn't imagine how they would taste. Everyone was hesitant to try them, but Suga had been the only person to put one in his mouth. Wow, it's really chewy, Suga attempted to say as his chewing got longer. What was that? Oikawa asked, half expecting the worst, but it never came. All that could be heard were the groans from Suga as he tried to chew through his brownie. It took them 20 minutes to get the brownie out of Suga's mouth. And it took them less than 20 seconds to declare Atsumu and Oikawa as the losers. Oikawa and Atsumu had to watch as everyone else got their phones back but them. Why couldn't you let them win something else? You couldn't give them money. Atsumu huffed as he sat down on his futon, pushing it back a bit. Well, why did you have to ask me what they would win? We could have done it without a prize, but you had to push it, Oikawa retorted, glaring at Atsumu. Sorry, darling, but you know how much I love to mess with you, Atsumu said with a smug look on his face, causing Oikawa to flush a bit. Unfortunately. You don't get to call me that, Oikawa said, turning his head away from Atsumu. You sound gross. If it bothers you that much, maybe I'll call you it more, Atsumu hummed as he made his way to the others. Oikawa groaned but couldn't help a smirk tugging on his face as he saw everyone talking. Without their phones in their faces, he could work with this.